Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time we're heading to the Pacific.
Ooh.
June 1942 for the Battle of Midway.
Everybody's favorite.
I know, right? You might be thinking, ugh, not Midway again.
Right.
But just hang on, this isn't going to be like those other Midway things you've already heard, because get this, we're going behind enemy lines.
Oh, wow.
We're going to see the whole thing from the Japanese side.
All right.
Specifically through the eyes of the Japanese commander, Admiral Nagumo.
This is cool. This is cool. So we're not just talking about, like, the battle itself.
Yeah.
But, like, the decisions that led up to it.
Exactly. We're going deep on this one.
Nice.
And trying to understand how a string of seemingly unbeatable victories for the Japanese Navy led to a decision that basically changed the course of the Pacific War.
Okay, all right. So let's
Yeah, set the stage.
Yeah, set the stage. What's the scene here?
6 months after Pearl Harbor,
Oh.
Japan is on top of the world. They are crushing it in the Pacific.
Right.
But
Big but,
right, looming in the distance, the industrial might of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And they know, Japan knows, they can't win a slugging match with the U.S.
Right.
So what do they need?
They got, what's that? A quick
Decisive
victory.
They need to knock the U.S. out early.
Right.
And so they decide on Midway.
And Midway's important because?
Midway is important because it is, at this point, really the biggest threat to Japan's expansion.
It's interesting because you look at Midway, and it's this little tiny...
It's a speck of dust.
Yeah, in this huge ocean.
No, but it's unsinkable aircraft carrier.
Right, exactly. Exactly what it is to them.
It's a strategic linchpin.
Yeah, and they think, if we can take Midway out, that's it. The U.S. is done in the Pacific.
Out of the game, right?
Out of the game. So they come up with this really kind of audacious plan, really, which is basically, we are going to use ourselves as bait.
They're going to lure? They're going to lure them in.
They're going to lure the Americans into a trap.
Ooh.
And ideally, the American carriers will show up. There'll be this big showdown, and Japan will win.
Okay.
But for this plan to work, it requires two things, really. One, meticulous planning.
Okay.
And two, a little bit of luck.
Yeah, you got to have some luck in these big operations.
Right, it's all the luck.
It's not just luck, it's also secrecy is huge.
Oh, okay. You know, they can't let the Americans know they're coming.
Total radio silence.
Total radio silence.
Like the entire fleet is just, what do they call it, EDEMCON?
The mission control, yeah.
They're dark. They're completely dark.
They are completely dark, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
Especially with the technology they had back then.
Imagine, like, trying to coordinate all of that.
And on top of that, they have this whole other thing going on.
Oh,
this diversionary attack up towards the Aleutians.
Right, so now you've got, like,
just to make...
one fleet going this way, one fleet going this way.
Trying to confuse the Americans. Yeah, exactly.
So to add to that fog of war.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And we're going to... By the way, we should say, we are going to experience this battle the way that Nagumo experienced it.
Oh, cool. So, like, just information.
As he gets it.
As it comes.
So we don't know anything yet.
That's going to be tough, but I like it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So the Japanese at this point, they're feeling pretty good.
They're on a roll?
They're on roll. They have had string of victories. Everything's going their way. And at the head of this fleet is, like we said, Admiral Tuichi Nagumo.
Now, Nagumo, he's an interesting figure. Tell me about this guy.
Really experienced commander, but his specialty was torpedo warfare.
Okay.
He was a surface warfare guy.
Okay, so like ships against ships.
Ships against ships.
But this is...
not carriers.
This is carriers.
Different game.
Different game entirely. And that's fascinating because that plays into how he makes decisions.
100%.
The fog of war, right. The pressure he's under, his background.
And the decisions he makes
will shape this battle.
and determine the fate of the Pacific.
And we're going to be along for the ride.
Buckle up. So last time we left off, the Japanese, they were about to spring their trap.
Yeah.
But, as we know, and as they'll soon find out, very few plans survive contact with the enemy.
Especially in war.
Right. So it's June 4th, 1942, early morning.
Okay.
And the Japanese, they launched their first airstrike on Midway Island.
So they're going in, they think this is it.
This is it. They're going to wipe out the American defenses.
Right.
They want to put Midway out of the fight.
Yeah.
And initially, it seems like everything's going according to plan, right?
Right. Explosions, fires.
Yeah, you got, what is it, like 2 squadrons of dive bombers?
Yeah.
I think a squadron of torpedo bombers going in.
It's just pummeling the island.
It's this little tiny island.
Yeah, it's a big target.
So they're scoring hits, there are fires everywhere, smoke.
Yeah.
You'd figure that's it, right?
You'd think.
Midway's done, but Midway's got a few surprises left in it.
Yeah.
First of all, as much damage as the Japanese inflict, they don't completely knock it out.
Right. They don't get everything.
And to make matters even worse for the Japanese, they get this really unexpected visitor.
Oh, boy.
One American bomber, I believe it was a B-17 maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
Actually tries to ram Nagumo's flagship.
Oh, wow.
The Akagi.
Talk about a close call.
Can you imagine being on that carrier?
Seeing this thing coming at you.
I mean, it's one plane, right?
Right.
But you're not expecting it.
Totally unexpected.
And they had to swerve out of the way at the last second.
I bet.
I think they ended up ditching in the water.
Yeah.
And so, not a lot of damage.
Right.
But definitely a sign of things to come. And maybe more importantly than the attack itself, midway, even though they're really battered, they launch a counterattack.
They're not giving up.
Oh, no, they are.
They're going to punch back.
They send everything they got, which isn't much, but they send it all to the Japanese fleet.
Yeah, they're trying to disrupt them as much as possible.
They've got, I think it was a handful of B-17s, some dive bombers, even a few torpedo planes.
Wow, so a mixed bag.
Oh, yeah, just whatever they could get in the air.
Just throw it all at them.
Exactly. And again, these attacks, they don't really do a whole lot of damage.
They're not effective, are they?
No, I think maybe one bomb hit a Japanese destroyer, that's it.
Okay.
But what they do
yeah,
is they force Nagumo and his staff, they've got to think about this, right?
Right. They've got to be aware.
They can't just relax.
They're on edge now.
So instead of immediately launching their own counterstrike, which is what they wanted to do, they have to deal with these attacks from Midway.
Which takes time.
And that delay, spoiler alert, that delay is going to come back to haunt them.
I bet. So Nagumo, he's getting these reports. Midway's defenses are tougher than we thought.
Yeah, he's thinking, we got to hit it again.
We need another strike.
We got to finish the job.
But he's got a choice to make.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
Because he's got two options. He can recall his first wave, bring them back, rearm them, and send them back out.
Which, that takes time, right?
Nice hours.
Hours? We might not have hours.
Or he can do something really risky. He can commit his reserve.
You know, the reserve, those are the planes that are supposed to be for what?
Those are the ones that are holding back in case...
In case the Americans show up.
The American carriers.
Right.
And remember, they don't know where the American carriers are.
That's right. This is all part of the big gamble.
Right. So he's got to make this decision. Do I play it safe, recall the first wave, knowing that's going to take a long time?
Right.
Or do I take a gamble, commit my reserve, and hope?
And hope for the best.
That the American carriers are nowhere near.
Yeah, because if those American carriers show up...
Oh, he's in trouble.
Big trouble. He's got no room for error here.
So what's he going to do? What would you do?
Oh, man. That's a tough one.
I'm feeling the pressure already.
Yeah, this is it, right? This is the moment where everything changes.
So what happens?
Well, he makes a choice. Nagumo decides to stick with the original plan.
Okay.
He orders his reserve planes, which are below deck at this point, to be prepped and armed for a strike on Midway.
So he's essentially betting on the original plan working.
He's betting that he has time.
That those American carriers are not a threat.
At least not an immediate threat.
Okay.
And that turns out to be a fatal miscalculation.
Oh boy, here we go.
Because just as the Japanese are in the middle of this really complicated process of getting those reserve planes ready to go.
Yeah, it's not like you just like, push a button.
No. I mean, you got to bring them up from the hangars below.
Yeah, you got to like arm them.
Fuel them, get the crews ready.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
It takes hours to do it properly.
And while they're in the middle of all that, they get an unexpected report. American torpedo planes.
Oh no! Spotted approaching the Japanese fleet.
And I'm guessing this is not good for a couple of reasons, right?
Well, for starters, it means that the American carriers are closer than they thought.
Right.
But there's another layer to this. Think about Nagumo's background.
Torpedo warfare.
Exactly. He's like an expert in torpedo warfare.
Right.
So under his leadership, the Japanese have developed these really sophisticated, really effective anti-torpedo defenses.
So they're ready for this.
They're more than ready.
Okay.
Their ships they're designed to evade torpedoes. Their captains are trained to maneuver against them.
Right.
And their anti-aircraft fire is incredibly accurate.
So these torpedo bombers, they're brave.
Oh, incredibly brave.
But they're basically flying into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, they're outmatched.
Right.
And it plays out exactly like that.
So the Japanese, they fight them off.
Wave after wave of American torpedo planes attack the Japanese fleet. And the Japanese just They shoot them down.
Wow.
I mean, left and right.
They survive.
They survived the torpedo attacks. Not a single torpedo hit a Japanese carrier.
Oh, wow.
But here's the thing about timing in war, right?
It's everything.
It's everything. And at that exact moment, just as the Japanese were congratulating themselves for dodging a bullet, a new threat appears. High above, coming in fast, American dive bombers.
Oh, no.
From the USS Enterprise and the USS Yorktown.
This is the moment everything changes, doesn't it?
This is it.
Okay.
The Japanese, they're completely caught off guard.
Because they're focused on the torpedo planes.
They're focused on what's right in front of them at sea level.
Yeah.
They're not looking up, and they're not expecting the Americans to be this close.
And it's not just that they're caught off guard, right? The Japanese carriers, they're not really designed for this. They're designed to launch attacks.
Right. They're offensive weapons.
So they've got all these planes.
Full of fuel, full of bombs.
On deck.
Ready to go for their next strike.
It's like the worst possible time for a dive bomber attack.
The worst possible time. And the results are devastating.
Okay, so what happens?
In the span of just 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. 3 Japanese carriers, the Akagi, the Kaga, and the Soryu.
Oh my gosh.
Engulfed in flames.
Wow.
Dive bombers screaming down from the sky, bombs hitting those exposed decks, igniting those fueled aircraft, those stacked bombs.
It's just infernal.
It was absolute chaos. The heart of the Japanese fleet gone in an instant.
And that's it, right? Like, that's the turning point.
It's the turning point of the battle, for sure. There's still some fighting left. The Hiryu, the one remaining Japanese carrier, tries to launch a counterattack.
Yeah.
They're desperate to salvage something.
But it's too late, right?
It's too late. They score some hits on the Yorktown, but later that day, the Hiryu is also sunk by American dive bombers.
So it's a complete disaster for the Japanese.
A complete and utter disaster.
What happened to Nagumo?
Nagumo survives.
Okay.
He's rescued along with much of his crew from the Akagi. He goes on to serve in other commands later in the war.
But his career, I mean, Midway's got to be it for him, right?
It's a devastating blow, not just to his career, but to his legacy. I mean, he goes from being this rising star, this hero of Pearl Harbor, to being associated with this catastrophic defeat.
Which is really kind of unfair when you think about it.
It is, and it isn't, right? Because on the one hand, he made a mistake. He miscalculated, and those miscalculations cost Japan dearly.
But on the other hand, he's making those decisions with imperfect information under incredible pressure.
Exactly. In the fog of war, sometimes you don't have all the answers. You just got to make the best decision you can with what you got.
And that's what makes Midway so fascinating. I mean, we're talking about these huge ships, these massive battles, thousands of men.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it comes down to human decisions.
Yep.
And the consequences of those decisions.
And how quickly, in the blink of an eye, those decisions can change the course of history.
And that, I think, is a good place to leave it for today. Another deep dive, Deb.
Until next time.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.